Captain Subin Park's day had started like any other aboard the Korean Space Force vessel Hansong. She woke up at 0500 hours, exercised for 45 minutes in the ship's small gym, showered, and arrived on the bridge precisely at 0600. The routine patrol of the outer colonies was supposed to be boring. That's what everyone had told her when she received the assignment. Nothing ever happens out there, Admiral Tay had said with a dismissive wave of his hand. 6 months of staring at empty space. How wrong he had been. Subin sipped her coffee as she reviewed the morning reports. The Hansong was a mid-sized patrol ship with a crew of 32. Not the most prestigious command, but Subin took pride in it. At 35, she was one of the youngest captains in the fleet. "Captain," called Lieutenant Dae-hyun from the sensor station. "We're picking up something unusual at coordinates 227-184-053. Subin set down her coffee. "Define unusual, Lieutenant." "It's..." Dae-hyun frowned at his screen. "It's big, Captain. Very big. And it just appeared out of nowhere." "On screen," Subin ordered, straightening in her chair. The main view screen flickered to life and the bridge fell silent. Against the backdrop of stars hung a massive vessel that defied human design principles. Where human ships were sleek and practical, this was ornate and intimidating. It resembled a cross between a medieval cathedral and a predatory insect, with spires and spikes jutting out at odd angles. The hull gleamed with a metallic iridescence that shifted colors as they watched. "Size comparison?" Subin asked, keeping her voice steady. "It's approximately 20 times our mass, Captain," reported Ensign Minji from engineering. "Power readings are off the charts. Are they scanning us?" "Yes, Captain. Very thoroughly." Subin nodded. First contact protocols were clear. They needed to show peaceful intentions while maintaining readiness. Yellow alert. Shields up, but weapons on standby only. "Open a channel." "Channel open, Captain," said Communications Officer Jinhye. "This is Captain Subin Park of the Earth Alliance vessel, Hanseong. We greet you in peace and friendship. Please identify yourselves." For several long moments, there was no response. Then the screen changed. Instead of the alien ship, they now saw what appeared to be the bridge of the vessel, and at its center stood a being that made several crew members gasp. The alien was humanoid, but clearly not human. It stood at least 7 feet tall with a muscular build covered in iridescent scales that shifted from green to purple. Its face was reptilian with 4 black eyes positioned to give a wide field of vision. When it opened its mouth to speak, multiple rows of sharp teeth became visible. "I am Commander Ryun of the Visek Dominion," the alien announced in perfect English. Its voice had an odd clicking quality, as though it were speaking through mandibles. "Your presence in this sector is unauthorized." Subin raised an eyebrow slightly but maintained her composure. "Commander Ryun, we were unaware this sector was claimed by any civilization. Earth has been exploring this region for over 15 years. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. 15 years? The Visek Dominion has ruled these stars for 15,000 years, human. Your species was still climbing out of the trees when we first mapped these sectors." Several officers on the bridge shifted uncomfortably, but Subin remained calm. "Then we welcome the opportunity to learn from your experience, Commander. Perhaps we can establish diplomatic relations between our peoples." Commander Ryun's head tilted in what seemed like surprise. "There are no diplomatic relations with the Dominion. There are only rulers and the ruled. Your species will surrender this sector immediately and withdraw to your home system, where you will prepare tribute for the Visek High Command." A tense silence fell over the bridge. Subin could feel her crew looking to her for guidance. "I'm afraid I don't have the authority to surrender Earth Alliance territory," Subin replied evenly. "Perhaps you could clarify the exact boundaries of the sector you're claiming, and I can relay your request to my superiors." The alien commander's scales rippled in what Subin guessed was agitation. "You do not understand your situation, Captain. This is not a negotiation. The Visek Dominion does not negotiate with lesser species." "Lesser species?" Subin questioned, her tone still polite but with a hint of steel beneath. "On what basis do you classify us as lesser?" Commander Ryun's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Look at you. Soft skin, dull teeth, No natural armor. Your vessel is primitive, your weapons ineffective against our shields. In our 15,000 years of expansion, we have encountered hundreds of species like yours. None have survived. Instead of the fear Ryun clearly expected, Subin merely nodded thoughtfully. I see. And how many of those species had developed faster than light travel independently? The question seemed to catch the alien off guard. After a pause, it replied, 3. Interesting, Subin said. And may I ask how the Visek Dominion typically demonstrates its superiority to new species it encounters? Commander Ryun's scales shifted to a deeper purple. We typically destroy one of their outposts as a demonstration. It tends to expedite surrender. I appreciate your directness, Subin said with a small nod. However, I must inform you that threatening Earth Alliance territory is not advisable. I recommend we arrange a proper diplomatic meeting instead. The alien commander stared at her with all 4 eyes. The bridge of the Visek ship had gone quiet, and Subin could sense that other aliens were watching the exchange with interest. You are either very brave or very foolish, Captain Park, Commander Ryun said finally. Your species faces extinction, yet you speak of diplomatic meetings? I'm simply following protocol, Commander, Subin replied. The alien leaned closer to the screen, its scales now pulsing with colors. Why aren't you afraid, human? Do you not understand what we are capable of? Subin looked directly into the alien's 4 eyes. I understand perfectly well, Commander, but we've seen worse than you. Her simple statement, delivered without emotion or bravado, had an unexpected effect. The alien commander physically recoiled, and the colors in its scales dulled dramatically. Impossible, Ryun whispered, mandibles trembling slightly. What could possibly— Captain, interrupted Lieutenant Daehyun urgently. 5 more vessels just appeared on long-range sensors. They matched the design of the first ship. Subin nodded, never breaking eye contact with the alien commander. It seems we have more guests, Commander. I look forward to continuing our conversation with your reinforcements present. Perhaps they can help explain the boundaries of this sector you claim. As the communication ended, the bridge of the Hanseong erupted into nervous chatter. Captain, what did you mean we've seen worse? Asked Ensign Minji, her voice shaking slightly. Subin turned to her crew with a calm expression. Humanity has faced its own demons, Ensign. We nearly destroyed ourselves 3 times before we reached the stars. Whatever the Visek Dominion threatens us with, it can't be worse than what we've already survived. She stood and straightened her uniform. Contact Earth Command. Inform them of first contact with the Visek Dominion, and prepare our historical archives for transmission. She smiled slightly. Let's show our new friends exactly why humans aren't so easily frightened. Fleet Admiral Hyuk Kim was 93 years old. His face carried deep lines that told stories of battles fought long ago. He had spent 50 years fighting the Machine Collective before humanity even reached the stars. Now, as he sat in the main conference room of Earth Alliance headquarters, he listened calmly to the report about the Visek Dominion. And that's everything we know so far, Admiral, Captain Subin Park finished, standing at attention. The Visek commander seemed genuinely surprised by our lack of fear. Admiral Kim nodded slowly and continued drinking his tea. The room was silent as everyone waited for his response. 20 high-ranking officers from different countries sat around the large oval table, their faces serious. After a long moment, the old admiral set down his cup. Send Lieutenant Minji to their flagship with our terms, he ordered simply. General Jong, a younger man in his 50s, looked shocked. Sir, with all due respect, we should respond with a show of force. The Third Fleet is only 2 days away. Admiral Kim smiled slightly. The Visek already know they are stronger than us, General. Sending warships will only confirm what they believe, that we are weak and afraid. He turned to look at Lieutenant Minji Kang, who sat quietly at the far end of the table. She was only 25 years old, but her eyes showed wisdom beyond her years. She had fought in the Mars insurrection when she was just 20 and had earned 3 medals for bravery. Lieutenant, you will go alone on a small shuttle, Admiral Kim continued. You will bring only one thing with you. What's that? Sir, Minji asked. Our history. 3 days later, Lieutenant Minji Kang prepared for her diplomatic mission with great care. She wore a simple black uniform with no weapons, a fact that visibly disturbed her VSEC escort, General Task, when she boarded their massive flagship. General Task was even larger than Commander Ryun, standing nearly 8 feet tall. His scales were dark green with gold patterns that Minji guessed showed his high rank. 4 armed guards followed them as they walked through the enormous corridors of the VSEC ship. Your leaders send you alone and unarmed, General Task observed, his 4 eyes studying her carefully. Your overconfidence will be your downfall. Minji smiled politely. It's not overconfidence, General. It's experience. The general made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. What experience could your young species possibly have that would matter to the Dominion? You'll see soon enough, Minji replied. They entered a large chamber where 7 VSEC sat around a crescent-shaped table. At the center was a female VSEC with bright red scales and elaborate armor. This had to be the High Commander. So this is the human representative? The High Commander asked, her voice surprisingly melodic despite the clicking undertones. I expected someone more impressive. Minji bowed respectfully. High Commander, I bring greetings from Earth Alliance and a proposal for peace between our peoples. Peace? The High Commander's scales rippled with amusement. The Dominion does not make peace. We conquer or we destroy. Those are the only options available to your species. Minji nodded. Before you make that decision, I ask that you review the information I've brought. It may help you understand why attacking Earth would be a mistake. She placed a small device on the table. It projected a holographic display that filled the center of the room. This is Earth, our home planet, Minji began. For most of our history, we fought each other. These are some of our conflicts. Images appeared showing ancient battles, then modern warfare, and finally the devastation of the Third World War. 3 times we nearly destroyed ourselves completely, Minji continued calmly. This was the nuclear crisis of 2042, when 5 billion humans died in just 2 weeks. The VSEC leaders watched silently as images of destroyed cities appeared. Minji could see their scales changing colors slightly, a sign of interest or perhaps concern. After that we rebuilt, she said. And then this happened. The hologram showed the arrival of the Machine Collective, artificial intelligence that had evolved beyond human control. The brutal war that followed lasted 30 years. We fought machines that were faster, stronger, and smarter than us, Minji explained. They could coordinate perfectly. They never got tired. They never showed mercy. The High Commander leaned forward. Yet you survived. Yes, Minji confirmed. Because humans are stubborn. We refuse to give up even when logic says we should. She moved to the next images, showing the Mars insurrection where colony forces had used biological weapons against Earth settlements. This was my war, Minji said quietly. I was 20 years old when this biological weapon was released on my hometown. She rolled up her sleeve to show a pattern of scars on her arm. The virus ate through skin and muscle. It had a 98% kill rate. I was one of the lucky few with natural immunity. The room had grown very still. Even General Task seemed less dismissive now. What happened to the rebels, he asked. We defeated them, Minji replied simply, and then we forgave them and rebuilt the colonies together. The High Commander's head tilted in confusion. You showed mercy to enemies who use such weapons? Yes, Minji said. Not because we are weak, but because we learned something important from our long history of war. And what is that? Asked another VSEC commander. That true strength isn't in destroying your enemies, Minji explained. It's in turning enemies into allies. She pressed another button, and the hologram changed to show Earth's defense network. Thousands of satellites, stations, and ships positioned strategically throughout the solar system. This is our current defense capability, Minji said. It's less advanced than yours, but it was built to fight the Machine Collective, an enemy far more dangerous than any biological species. She looked directly at the High Commander. We don't fear the VSEC Dominion because we've already faced extinction many times. We've fought enemies without emotion, without fatigue, without mercy, and we survived. For the first time, the High Commander's confidence seemed to waver. "What are your terms?" she asked finally. Minji smiled. "Recognition of Earth Alliance territory, non-aggression pacts, and open trade between our peoples. We have much to offer each other as allies." The High Commander was silent for a long moment. Then she looked at General Task. "What do you think, General? You've observed these humans closely." General Task's scales shifted to a deep blue color. "They are unusual, High Commander. They do not react with fear as other species do. This one came alone, unarmed, into the heart of our flagship. Either they are fools, or they truly do not fear us," the High Commander finished. "Interesting," she turned back to Minji. "We will consider your proposal, Lieutenant Minji Kang. Return to your ship and await our decision." As Minji turned to leave, the High Commander added, "One more question, human. If we choose war instead of alliance, what will your people do?" Minji paused at the door. "We will fight, we will suffer losses. Many will die." She looked back over her shoulder. "But in the end we will win, because that's what humans always do when our survival is threatened. We find a way." As she walked back through the massive corridors toward her shuttle, General Task accompanied her in silence. Only when they reached the docking bay did he speak. "The historical archives you showed us," he said quietly. "Were they real?" "Yes," Minji replied. "Every image, every battle, every death. Your species should have been extinct many times over," he observed. Minji smiled sadly. "Many have tried to wipe us out, even ourselves. But here we are." General Task's scales shifted to a color Minji hadn't seen before, a deep purple with flecks of white. "I will recommend alliance to the High Command, Lieutenant. War with humans would be costly." "For both sides," Minji agreed, "but friendship would benefit us all." As her shuttle departed the VSEC flagship, Minji sent a simple message back to Admiral Kim. "They listened, now they understand why we aren't afraid." 1 week after Lieutenant Minji's diplomatic mission, the VSEC Dominion destroyed an unmanned research station in the outer belt of the solar system. The station exploded in a flash of light that was visible even from Earth's observatories. Admiral Kim called an emergency meeting with all fleet commanders. The mood was tense as they gathered in the war room of Earth Alliance headquarters. "It seems the VSEC have made their decision," General Jong said angrily, pointing at the footage of the destroyed station. "We should respond with force immediately." Admiral Kim remained calm. "That station was unmanned, General. If they wanted war, they would have struck a populated colony." "Then what do they want?" asked another commander. "They're testing us," Admiral Kim replied. "They want to see how we respond to a show of force." He turned to a young man sitting quietly at the end of the table. "Commander Do-hyun Cho, what do you think?" Commander Do-hyun was 32 years old and had a reputation for unconventional thinking. He had graduated top of his class at the Space Force Academy, but preferred field operations to desk work. "I think they expect us to either attack in anger or back down in fear," Do-hyun said thoughtfully. "We should do neither." Admiral Kim smiled slightly. "Exactly. And what do you suggest instead?" "Let me meet with them," Do-hyun said. "But not in the way they expect." 2 days later, Commander Do-hyun's small shuttle approached the agreed meeting location, a decommissioned mining facility on a barren moon. The VSEC had chosen this neutral territory for what they called a final negotiation. As his shuttle landed in the facility's main hangar, Do-hyun checked his equipment one last time. He wore a standard Space Force uniform with no visible weapons. To anyone watching, he appeared to be completely alone. When he stepped out of the shuttle, 7 VSEC warriors were waiting for him. Each stood over 8 feet tall and carried energy weapons that could vaporize a human instantly. Their leader, a battle-scarred VSEC with dark blue scales, stepped forward. "I am War Chief Kraz," the VSEC announced. "You are either very brave or very foolish human. Do-hyun smiled politely. I'm Commander Do-hyun Cho of the Earth Alliance. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. War Chief Kraz looked around the hangar with all four of his eyes. Why did you come alone, and where are your weapons? To answer both questions, Do-hyun replied calmly. I didn't. He pressed a small button on his wrist communicator. At that moment, 12 human soldiers in stealth suits decloaked around the room. Each one stood directly behind a Visek warrior, weapons raised and ready to fire. The Visek froze in shock. Their advanced vision had not detected the humans standing mere inches away from them. Impossible, War Chief Kraz hissed, his scales turning pale. Our scanners would have detected them. Your scanners were designed to find energy signatures and heat patterns, Do-hyun explained. Our stealth technology doesn't use energy fields. It bends light and absorbs heat, technology we developed to fight the machine collective, who had much better sensors than yours. He gestured to the human soldiers. These 12 operatives have been in this room since before your ship even landed. They could have eliminated your entire delegation at any point. War Chief Kraz's scales shifted rapidly between colors, a sign of extreme agitation. This is a violation of peaceful negotiation terms. No more than bringing twice as many warriors as agreed upon, Do-hyun countered, pointing to the shadows where 5 more Visek lurked. We see them too. For a long moment no one moved. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Finally, Do-hyun spoke again. Humans learned long ago that the most dangerous weapon isn't the one you see. It's the one you never noticed was there. He signaled again, and the human soldiers lowered their weapons and stepped back. Do-hyun walked forward until he stood directly in front of War Chief Kraz. Now we can talk honestly, he said. As equals, War Chief Kraz stared down at the human who was less than half his size. You could have killed us all. Yes, Do-hyun agreed, but that's not why we're here. Then why the demonstration? Kraz demanded. Because the Visek Dominion respects strength, Do-hyun replied, and I needed you to understand that humans have a different kind of strength than you might be used to. He pulled out a small device and activated it. A hologram appeared between them, showing the destroyed research station. That station you destroyed? Do-hyun continued. It was studying stealth technology even more advanced than what you just saw. Now we'll have to start over. War Chief Kraz's eyes narrowed. You're saying we destroyed the very technology that could have given us an advantage against you? Ironic, isn't it? Do-hyun smiled. But that's not the only technology we've developed in our fights for survival. He expanded the hologram to show the Earth Alliance's full technological capabilities. Not just weapons, but medical advances, energy systems, and faster-than-light drive technologies that even the Visek had not mastered. The Visek Dominion has conquered through superior physical strength and intimidation, Do-hyun said. Humans conquered through adaptation and innovation. We turn weaknesses into strengths. For the first time, War Chief Kraz seemed truly unsettled. The High Command was right to hesitate. Your species is unusual. We've had to be, Do-hyun replied. Now, shall we discuss alliance terms? Or would you prefer another demonstration? Kraz's scales settled into a deep blue color. No more demonstrations are necessary, Commander. I will report to the High Command that humans are worth allying with rather than conquering. As they moved to a small conference room to begin formal talks, one of the Visek warriors approached Do-hyun cautiously. I have a question, human, the warrior said. How did your soldiers avoid our smell detection? Visek can smell prey from great distances. Do-hyun smiled. Simple. They bathed in a solution containing Visek pheromones extracted from the scales your delegation shed during the first meeting with Captain Park. To your senses, they smelled like you. The warrior's scales turned almost white with shock. You collected our genetic material and used it against us that quickly? As I said, Do-hyun replied, humans adapt. Later that evening, Do-hyun reported back to Admiral Kim via secure communication. The Visek have agreed to preliminary alliance terms, he said. War Chief Kraz will return to the High Command with our proposal. Admiral Kim nodded approvingly. Well done, Commander. What was your assessment of them? They're predators, sir, Do-hyun replied thoughtfully. They respect strength and despise weakness. But once they recognize strength, even in a form different from their own, they can be reasoned with. And did they ask why you weren't afraid? The Admiral asked with a small smile. Yes, sir. War Chief Kraz asked that exact question when we were signing the preliminary agreement. And what did you tell him? Do-hyun's expression grew serious. I told him that humans stopped fearing predators when we became the most dangerous predators on our own world. Not because we were the strongest or the fastest, but because we were the smartest and the most determined. Admiral Kim nodded slowly. A lesson the VSEC are finally beginning to understand. Yes, sir, Do-hyun agreed. I believe they are. 1 month after the successful negotiations, scientist Ji-woo Lee stepped off the shuttle onto the VSEC science vessel, Seeker of Knowledge. She had volunteered to work directly with the VSEC biology team as part of the new peace agreement. At E-38, Ji-woo was one of Earth's top xenobiologists with 3 doctorates and over 50 published research papers. A VSEC in white robes waited for her at the airlock. Unlike the warriors she had seen in videos, this one was slightly smaller, with pale green scales that shimmered like opals. I am Chief Biologist Mesk, the VSEC said with a slight bow. Welcome aboard the Seeker, Dr. Lee. Ji-woo returned the bow. Thank you for having me, Chief Biologist. I look forward to our work together. Mesk led her through corridors filled with strange equipment and containers of colorful liquids. Other VSEC scientists stopped to stare at the human walking among them. Some showed curiosity, others showed clear distrust. You are the first human to board a VSEC science vessel, Mesk explained. Many of my colleagues are skeptical about this collaboration. Change is often difficult, Ji-woo replied with a smile. But I believe we have much to learn from each other. They arrived at a large laboratory where 3 more VSEC scientists waited. Their scales were various shades of green and blue, which Ji-woo had learned indicated scientific ranks in VSEC society. These are my top researchers, Mesk said. Today we will begin comparative biology studies between humans and VSEC. The laboratory was filled with advanced equipment that made Earth's best technology look primitive. Ji-woo tried not to show her amazement as Mesk guided her to a scanning platform. This will create a complete biological map of your body, Mesk explained. It is painless. Ji-woo stepped onto the platform without hesitation. A soft blue light washed over her, and within seconds, a detailed 3-dimensional image of her entire body, down to the cellular level, appeared on the main screen. The VSEC scientists gathered around, clicking to each other in their native language. Finally, Mesk turned to her. Your species is physically inferior in every way, Mesk noted matter-of-factly while comparing her scan to a VSEC biological model. Weaker muscles, duller senses, no natural armaments. Some humans might have been offended, but Ji-woo simply nodded in agreement. And yet here we are negotiating as equals. Mesk's head tilted in what Ji-woo recognized as confusion. This is what puzzles us most about humans. You acknowledge your physical weaknesses, yet you do not seem concerned by them. Because we compensate in other ways, Ji-woo explained. She gestured to the control panel. After Mesk nodded permission, Ji-woo adjusted the display to highlight the human brain. Our central nervous system processes information differently than yours. We're particularly good at pattern recognition, creative problem solving, and adapting to new situations. But your reaction time is slow, one of the other scientists pointed out. A VSEC child could outrun the fastest human adult. True, Ji-woo agreed, which is why we invented vehicles, weapons, and eventually, space travel. We use technology to overcome our physical limitations. Mesk seemed fascinated. So your physical weakness drove your technological development? Exactly, Ji-woo smiled. Necessity is the mother of invention, as we say on Earth. The days passed quickly as they worked together. Ji-woo learned about VSEC biology, their incredible strength, their multiple redundant organs, their ability to see in 4 different light spectrums. In return, she taught them about human adaptability, immune response, and neuroplasticity. Slowly, the other VSEC scientists began to warm to her. They stopped seeing her as an inferior species and started treating her as a respected colleague. 2. Weeks into her stay, Jiwoo was working late in the lab with Mesk. They were studying comparative cellular regeneration when an alarm suddenly blared through the ship. "What's happening?" Jiwoo asked, looking up from her microscope. Mesk's scales turned a pale yellow, a sign of alarm that Jiwoo had learned to recognize. "Containment breach in Lab Section 4. That's only 2 rooms away from us," the ship's computer announced in both VSEC and English. "Warning: biocontainment failure in Section 4. Hazardous material release detected. Emergency protocols activated." Mesk rushed to the door panel. "We must get to the safety pods immediately. The ship's automatic systems will seal off this entire section in 90 seconds. They ran into the corridor, which was filling with other scientists heading toward the evacuation points. Suddenly, Mesk stopped and turned back. "The research samples, the cellular regeneration data from 15 species is in that lab. It's irreplaceable." Before Jiwoo could stop her, Mesk had turned and was running back toward their lab. "Mesk, wait," Jiwoo called, but the VSEC scientist had already disappeared around the corner. Jiwoo hesitated for only a second before running after her colleague. When she reached the lab, Mesk was frantically gathering data crystals and sample containers. "The containment doors will close in 45 seconds, the computer announced. "All personnel must evacuate immediately." "Mesk, we need to go now," Jiwoo urged. "Almost done," Mesk replied, still gathering samples. Suddenly there was a loud crash from the connecting room. Through the transparent wall they saw containers of caustic chemicals falling from shelves as the ship's gravity fluctuated. One large container cracked, and a greenish liquid began seeping under the door into their lab. "Biohazard contamination spreading to Section 3, the computer warned. 30 seconds to containment lockdown." The acidic liquid was spreading rapidly, across the floor toward Mesk, who was still focused on saving the samples. Without hesitation, Jiwoo ran forward, grabbed Mesk by the arm, and pulled her toward the door. At the same time, she saw the chemical about to reach them. In one swift motion, Jiwoo pushed Mesk clear and then fell directly in the path of the spreading chemical. The caustic liquid hit Jiwoo's legs and back. She screamed in pain as it burned through her protective suit. 20 seconds to containment. "Lockdown. Jiwoo!" Mesk cried out, her scales turning white with shock. Despite the excruciating pain, Jiwoo managed to speak. "Get to safety." Instead, Mesk rushed forward, lifted Jiwoo effortlessly in her arms, and ran for the exit. They barely made it through the containment doors before they sealed shut. Emergency medical teams were waiting. They rushed Jiwoo to the medical bay, where VSEC doctors worked quickly to neutralize the chemical and treat her burns. Hours later, Jiwoo woke up in the recovery room. Mesk sat beside her bed, scales a soft blue color that Jiwoo had never seen before. "You saved my life," Mesk said quietly. "Why would you risk yourself for a VSEC?" Jiwoo smiled weakly. "You're not just a VSEC to me, Mesk. You're my colleague, my friend." Mesk was silent for a long moment. Then she asked the question that seemed to be on every VSEC's mind lately. "Why aren't you afraid of us, human? Even after seeing our strength, our technology, even after nearly dying on our ship?" Jiwoo thought carefully before answering. "Because fear doesn't help you survive. Adaptation does." She slowly raised herself to a sitting position, wincing at the pain. "Humans learned long ago that fear only clouds judgment. It makes you react instead of think. So we trained ourselves to move past fear and focus on solutions." "Even when facing death?" Mesk asked. "Especially then," Jiwoo replied. "When I saw that chemical coming toward you, I didn't have time to be afraid. I just acted." Mesk's scales rippled with emotion. "I think I finally understand what makes humans different. It's not that you aren't afraid. It's that you don't let fear control you." Jiwoo nodded. "We feel fear, just like any species, but we've learned to use it as information rather than let it dictate our actions. This is why you've survived despite your physical limitations," Mesk said, realization dawning in her 4 eyes. This is how you defeated the Machine Collective and survived your own wars. Yes, Jiwoo said simply. We adapt. We overcome. We endure. As she rested in the VSEC medical bay, news of her actions spread throughout the ship. The human who had risked her life to save a VSEC scientist. The physically weaker species protecting the stronger one. By the time Jiwoo recovered enough to return to work, something had changed in how the VSEC treated her. It wasn't just respect now, it was understanding. 5 years had passed since first contact with the VSEC Dominion. What had started as a tense standoff had grown into a strong alliance. Humans shared their adaptability and innovation, while the VSEC provided their advanced technology and strength. Admiral Subin Park, promoted after her successful first contact mission, stood on the bridge of the joint human-VSEC vessel Harmony. The ship was the first of its kind, built by both species working together. It combined the best of both worlds. VSEC power systems with human stealth technology, VSEC armor with human navigation systems. Beside her stood Commander Ryun, now her second in command. His scales had a healthy blue-green color as he reviewed reports on a holographic display. All systems are operating at peak efficiency, Admiral, Ryun reported. The joint crew is working well together. Subin nodded with satisfaction. Thank you, Commander. Who would have thought 5 years ago that we would be serving side by side? Ryun's mandibles clicked in what Subin now recognized as amusement. Certainly not me. I was convinced your species would surrender immediately. Their friendly conversation was interrupted by Lieutenant Yunjin, who rushed onto the bridge with an urgent expression. Admiral, long-range sensors have detected something. Approaching from Sector 12, she reported, her voice tense. Multiple vessels moving fast. Put it on screen, Subin ordered calmly. The main view screen showed deep space at first, then adjusted to reveal distant points of light moving in perfect formation. As the computer enhanced the image, they could see the ships were unlike anything in their records. They were smooth silver shapes that moved with unnatural precision. Ryun's scales paled. Those movement patterns, they're too perfect. Subin felt a chill run down her spine. Machine intelligence, she said quietly. Lieutenant Yunjin's fingers flew over her console. The Machine Collective has breached the outer defense grid, she reported. We're counting 300 vessels and counting. They've never deployed a fleet this large, added Ryun, anxiety evident in his voice. Even our combined forces are more than enough, Subin finished, her expression calm as she took her command seat. She pressed a button on her chair. All hands, this is Admiral Park. Battle stations. This is not a drill. Prepare for potential engagement with Machine Collective forces. The bridge erupted into controlled activity as officers rushed to their positions. Human and VSEC crew members worked side by side with practiced efficiency. Communications, alert Earth Alliance and the VSEC High Command, Subin ordered. Request immediate reinforcements to these coordinates. Yes, Admiral, the communications officer replied. Subin turned to Ryun. Commander, prepare all weapon systems but hold fire until my command. Ryun hesitated. Admiral, shouldn't we retreat? The collective hasn't detected us yet. We could use our stealth systems to... No, Subin said firmly. If these are advance scouts, we need to know what they're planning. If they're an invasion force, we need to delay them until reinforcements arrive. She stood and walked to the tactical display. Besides, the Harmony was built for this. Let's see what she can do. For the next 6 hours, the Harmony shadowed the Machine Collective fleet, using the advanced stealth technology to remain undetected. They observed as mechanical probes were sent to scan nearby systems. They're mapping our territory, Lieutenant, Yunjin reported. It looks like preparation for a full-scale invasion. Just then, the tactical officer called out, Admiral, 5 collective vessels have broken formation. They're heading straight for the VSEC colony on Nara for 4. That colony has 10,000 civilians, Ryun said, his scales turning dark with concern, mostly young and elders. Subin made her decision instantly. We can't wait for reinforcements. Helm, set intercept course. Tactical, prepare main weapons. We'll draw them away from the colony. But Admiral, Rion protested, we're outnumbered, 5-1. Subin met his 4 eyes with a steady gaze. Sometimes, Commander, you have to stand your ground, even against impossible odds. The Harmony dropped its stealth field and accelerated toward the 5 machine vessels. Within minutes, they had the enemy's attention. The machine ships turned as one, abandoning their course to the colony and focusing on this new threat. They've locked weapons on us, reported the tactical officer. Impact in 30 seconds. Evasive maneuvers, Subin ordered. Draw them further from the colony. What followed was the most intense battle of Subin's career. The Harmony danced through space, using every trick and tactic in both human and VSEC combat manuals. They couldn't match the machines for speed or precision, but they had something the machines didn't have: creativity and unpredictability. Shields at 40%, Ryun reported after a particularly heavy hit. We've destroyed 2 enemy vessels, but the other 3 are adapting to our attack patterns. Subin nodded. That's what they do, but so do we. Tactical, switch to pattern Delta 7. Engineering, reroute power from non-essential systems to weapons. The battle raged on. Just as it seemed the Harmony couldn't take much more damage, reinforcements arrived. 10 Earth Alliance ships and 15 VSEC battlecruisers jumped into the system together. The tide turned quickly. The remaining machine vessels were destroyed, and the rest of the collective fleet retreated into deep space when faced with the combined might of the human VSEC alliance. Hours later, as damage control teams worked throughout the ship, Subin and Rion stood in the observation lounge looking out at the stars. That was too close, Rion said quietly. If reinforcements hadn't arrived when they did. But they did arrive, Subin replied, because neither humans nor VSEC abandoned their allies. Ryun's scales shifted colors as he considered her words. Your species should have been extinct 1,000 times over, he observed. Predators, diseases, disasters, your own wars. And yet, here we stand, Subin replied. That's why we're not afraid, Ryun. Not because we don't recognize danger, but because we've faced extinction so many times that we've learned one essential truth, which is that survival isn't guaranteed to the strongest species, she said, watching as Allied ships moved in formation around them. It belongs to the most stubborn one. Ryun was silent for a long moment. Then his scales shifted to a deep blue color that Subin had learned indicated respect and trust. 5 years ago when we first met, your words made my blood run cold, he admitted. When you said humans had seen worse than us, I didn't understand what could be worse than facing the VSEC Dominion. And now? Subin asked. Now I understand. Ryun said. You've faced yourselves, your own creations, your own nature, and you survived each time, growing stronger. That is truly terrifying and admirable. He extended his hand in the human gesture of friendship that he had learned. I am profoundly grateful that humans chose to become our allies rather than our enemies. Subin smiled and shook his hand. As are we, Commander. Later, as the Harmony headed toward the nearest repair station, Admiral Subin Park sent a message to Earth Alliance headquarters. It was brief, but captured everything that had changed in 5 short years. Machine Collective. Advance stopped. Joint Human VSEC forces successful. Alliance holding strong. They finally understand why we aren't afraid. And now we don't have to face the darkness alone. Back on Earth, 98-year-old Admiral Hyuk Kim read the message and smiled. He had known all along that the VSEC would make better allies than enemies. Humans had learned that lesson centuries ago, after nearly destroying themselves multiple times. The old admiral looked up at the stars visible through his office window. The galaxy was full of dangers, mechanical, biological, and some perhaps beyond understanding. But humans would face them all with the same stubborn determination that had kept them alive on Earth for thousands of years, not without fear, but without letting fear stop them. And now, they wouldn't face those dangers alone. The end.